Okay, welcome back. We just finished a conversation about toxicity in the workplace, and we want to go on to talk about how do you know when you're in a toxic work environment. Karina, love for you to start us off.
Okay, it's tricky because how you're responding to it might give you an idea of whether you're either the toxic person yourself, or whether you're facilitating said toxic person, or whether you're a victim of said toxic person. I think if we work under the assumption for now that you're a victim of it, or that you're suffering as a result of it, I guess it's different across the board. But I think toxicity, rather than disruption or just general negativity, I think is fairly chronic. I think it's been one of those things. I imagine that will have it seems to keep going through the same cycles over again, and without any clear exits. That would be one of my indicators, I think.
I love the victim thing, because it makes me think, is anyone going to watch this going, I'm not the victim, I'm the perpetrator? No. So every listener to this thing is going to be a victim of a toxic culture, aren't they? But are they? Well, I can't answer that. Well, so that's a really good point. And I think, so the way I look at it is, if I'm sitting in a toxic culture, how do I know? Well, I've been through a lot of stuff in my life. And one thing I'm very clear on is, if somebody tells me to do something, it goes through a filter. So that filter is generally, are they exercising their egoic power over me, or does it have some reason? So for instance, if a fireman tells me to get out of the house, it's burning, I get that. There's a reason for it. It's not their ego. That's my safety there, because I can see that. And likewise, if my boss says, clear that aisle, somebody's going to trip on it and get hurt, I'm being told what to do, but I understand it. We have a safety culture here. That makes sense. But if it starts becoming, an agenda-based thing, where that boss starts telling you what to do simply because they want to exercise their influence on you, that I think is where toxicity occurs. So if you're asked to do something and your sense is this doesn't align with your values, or the values that you recognize the organization espouses, then I think we need to interrogate further and say to ourselves, is this part of a bigger toxicity that I need to take on?
Interesting, because I have a different idea of toxicity. For me, toxicity is more about the interpersonal relationships with people, and about, throwing people under the bus, or, making people feel bad, or creating guilt, and all of that comes with a toxic person.
Right. So if we have different versions of it, then I'm glad we've got that out.
Yeah. Steve, what do you think?
I think that both of those are valid, and I think that they're both toxic, and I think you can actually address both of them with a filter. And that is, what's the why of this? So in Tim's examples, why am I being asked to clear the aisle? Safety, great. In your example, Robyn, of that negative relationship, why are they being so vile? Why am I feeling bad every time I talk to this person? So finding the why might be a way to identify whether you're a victim or a perpetrator.
And as a leader, does that help you in any way recognize if the environment under you is toxic? How would you know as a leader if the environment under you is toxic?
I'm going to go with communication, just, more talking, more conversations, more one-to-ones, more 360s, all of those things that open communication are inclined or are likely to suggest that people are struggling.
And how does that work in the virtual environment? How do I know if I'm in a virtual environment that I'm in a toxic environment, as opposed to just, we've talked about before, how being virtual makes it really hard to know where you are with people, and you can be crazy making in your own head because you're making stuff up that isn't really there.
I think if there are too many sort of squabbles going on, and people complaining about other people, and if you're spending, as a leader in particular, if you're spending a regular amount of time putting out fires, there's a problem. There's because it shouldn't, every now and again something will blow up into an argument, or a debate gets too heated or whatever it is, but it shouldn't happen as a regular thing. And it shouldn't be a case of behind closed doors people are saying, this person, and if there's too much of that going on, it's probably an issue.
I wonder whether, if you're constantly asking yourself what, and then can't answer the why, are you in a toxic environment? So I've sort of written down a little equation here: know what plus know why equals toxic. And I wonder whether, if you find yourself sort of going, what? as if I don't understand why this is happening. And then you sort of say, asking yourself the question of why is this happening? Can I get to the bottom of it? And if you're still left confused at that point, again, we need to assume maybe that a toxicity is occurring. It might not be, but we've got to move down that road in order to accept it, haven't we? And recognize it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
You think if someone's being toxic, if I, as the person who's like in that space, I don't understand what's going on and I don't understand why it's happening, and I go to the person and try to ask the question, and they're, you know, rainbows and kittens and everything's fine, is that crazy making?
Well, and I think it comes back to Steve's point, doesn't it, about communication.
That's the thing. I feel there's an element of how widespread it is. You know, so it could be that there's a pocket of negativity where there's either two people or a small group of people who aren't getting along. But for me, I think it only becomes toxic when it's spreading through, you know, almost pretty much the majority of the team. And you know, yeah, that's for me part of the definition, I guess. But that's, again, how you know you're in it, I think, is it's not just affecting you, it's affecting a group of people. And for, you know, they may not be able to pinpoint why it is, but there is ill feeling on a broader scale, perhaps.
Is there such thing as a personality conflict where people just have the inability to get along? Is that a thing, or is that a toxic environment?
Yeah, no, I think that's a thing, but I think the inability I think there's a difference between personalities clashing and managing to get along versus personalities clashing and we're not getting along. Just, you know, I think the bit we're in control of is whether we choose to get along with someone and make the best of it. You know, if there are personalities that clash, I think, for sure.
It comes back to the what and why thing. You know, there are people I don't get on well with, but I know why, and I'm happy with that. I get that. I don't get on with you because this. So, you know, it's the what and why thing again for me. It would be like, well, if I can't answer either of those questions, you know, if I could, then I need to either walk away. That's the other option. Is, you know, I think we need to make the point here very clearly that you can walk away from a toxic environment and there is a greener field just waiting for you on the other side of the hedge. And if you want to find it, it's there. It is there. Don't sit through this thinking this is all there is.
I once had a boss who said that whenever he found someone that was toxic, he would always invite them to find greener grass elsewhere.
Yes.
Steve, you've been awfully quiet. What do you think?
Yeah, well, I was thinking about the what and why, and there's another aspect, which is that, you know, as adults and as people within our organization, we would expect our team members to do a little bit of self-diagnosis. And that's another question, is how do I feel going into this call? Or how do I feel coming out of this call? So how do I feel? If this person's going to be in the call, I feel like hell. I don't want to be there. So there's an issue. Is it me or is it not? What is it that's causing me to feel that way? Why? Why are they making me feel that way? So, you know, your self-diagnosis is about how you feel in a situation. If you go into a meeting and you come out of it feeling rough, is it because people have molded you, or is it because somebody was in that meeting who is toxic?
In the minute we have left, when do you bring in a coach? When do you seek outside counsel other than the gossiping in the office?
Aside from the commercial aspect of it, from our point of view as coaches,
Right.
I would suggest that before it gets destructive, when it starts being a niggle, that's when to bring a coach in, because nipping it in the bud is going to be cheaper and easier and quicker than trying to resolve a toxic attitude.
And stealing Karina's big thing, if you've got a growth mindset and you're not growing, that's the time.
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, definitely. I agree. I mean, how many times have any of us gone into an organization and thought, if they had brought me in 6 months or a year ago, this would be so much easier to fix?
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, thank you so much. That's our 10 minutes. I appreciate you guys being here with me. We'll do it again real soon.
Thanks, Robyn.
Cheers, Robyn.
Thank you.